In Lionheart, Legacy of the Crusader, you play as a descendant of Richard the Lionheart. You start off captured by slavers and sentenced to death, but your guardian spirit stops them from executing you. You eventually escape to Barcelona, where you're able to start exploring and taking quests. The game's storyline is interesting, at least early on. Finding out who sold you out to the slavers, who sent assassins after you, picking a faction, and helping random people is all done well, but as you progress, it degrades into just killing swarms of enemies until you get to the big bad guy. Of course, before you do any of that, you've got to create a character. The creation and leveling process are very reminiscent of the old Fallouts. You pick your stats, you tag 3 main skills, pick a perk, choose a guardian spirit, and choose your appearance. You can pick any combination that suits your intended playstyle, although I do recommend picking at least one combat skill, since late game is really just plowing through hordes of enemies. While the game has character creation and progression similar to Fallout, the core gameplay is more along the lines of games like Diablo, where you left-click an enemy to use a basic attack, right-click to use your selected spell, or use your spells and potions off of the hotbar. Combat is your standard stand there and hold left mouse to stab the enemies until they fall over and drop loot. The AI is also quite basic, so the enemies are really easy to deal with. There are also things like lockpicking and coercion, and thankfully there's no lockpicking minigame, just opens if your skill is high enough. Graphically, the game is honestly just okay. They're a little below average when it came out back in 2004, and while it holds up decently enough, there were much better looking games at the time. The sound is nothing to write home about either. The music is repetitive and kinda bland, and the voice acting ranges from passable to laughably bad.
Welcome to Barcelona, jewel of the world. La Città Grande, the greatest metropolis of Europe. My apologies for not introducing myself earlier, but with the slavers and the assassins threatening you, there was no time for introductions.
This is an interesting game. It takes place in an altered reality, but still loosely based on our history. So you get to meet and help some historical figures like Shakespeare, Galileo, and Da Vinci. Unfortunately, this game is another one that was rushed out the door to meet a deadline. As such, the first third of the game is really good, but the second third is just okay, and the last third is just cutting down enemies to get to the end, which is quite bland. I'd say it's worth giving a try, especially since good old games made it easily accessible and compatible with modern systems. It's a good example of a game that could have been great if they would have taken their time and made the whole game as intriguing as the first third. If nothing else, it allows you to be a magic-based character who works for the Spanish Inquisition. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.